Hey friends, I'm so excited to be here back again. I decided to do a series on frequently asked questions with regards to mindfulness. So I do get a lot of these questions, and I think the more you start to practice, or even just through the beginning of your practice, these questions will definitely come up. So the first question that I've gotten a lot of is, why do I have such a strong emotional or physical reaction? And is it normal to have that reaction to meditation or to, in general, everyday mindfulness? And my answer to that is it's actually a common misconception that when you're practicing mindfulness right, if you're doing it correctly, that the experience will be calming and more peaceful. And why I say that is because in the beginning, you're actually becoming more attuned to what is happening within you. And oftentimes, that's a little bit more chaotic than we would like to think, right? So it's actually a sign that you're beginning to pay a little bit more closer attention to what's going on in your internal mind, but also within your own body when you have those physical or emotional reactions to meditation. And it's totally okay, totally normal for these things to happen. Okay, oftentimes the number one thing people say is that they can't sit still, or their mind is racing, and that's why they can't meditate. And that's exactly why. Because when you meditate and when you become more mindful, you actually become more attuned with what's happening within you. And oftentimes it's just observing that chaos, right? It's observing what's going on inside you. And a lot of the times it's, for a lot of people, it's our first time looking at it, right? We may have had glimpses before, but in general, that is kind of the overall essence of what mindfulness actually is to become more aware of what's going on. And yeah, that's the reality of it. I mean, a lot of people have a lot of inner conflict, inner turmoil, imbalances in their lives and in their bodies that mindfulness can actually shed some light on. So no, you're not doing it wrong just because you have some sort of physical or emotional reaction to mindfulness. It's normal. And what we can do is not try to push that stuff away, right? Because that's exactly what we do in the rest of our lives. We try to distract ourselves, right? So in mindfulness, we actually want to look at these things and give ourselves space to gently observe what's going on. And if you can, try to do it without judgment, right? Of course, that's way easier said than done. And so you can think of it kind of as like our reactions are weather systems, okay? So a weather system kind of swoops in, it stays a while, but it eventually dissipates. It eventually turns back into sunshine. And in all honesty, sunshine is also a weather system, right? Clear skies is a weather system. And basically that's saying that nothing is static, nothing is forever. Change is the only constant, right? So try to embody a little bit more presence within yourself when these things come up. And it's practicing mindfulness. It's actually practicing mindfulness when you begin to see what comes up, right? And it's about seeing those things and cultivating a more compassionate relationship with your reactions rather than judging them, right? Or rather than rejecting them, trying to push them away, or rather than actually drowning in the experience, right? These are all very common reactions we get when we look internally, right? And so coming up in the mindfulness course that I'm going to be teaching, we'll actually start to look at seeing these difficult emotions and how we can react to seeing them without actually emotionally or physically judging what's going on. Okay? So, one thing I do want to mention though is that when these reactions come up, sometimes they're frightening, right? A lot of the times, when we become more mindful, we also start to open up doors that we may have had closed for a very long time. And that's okay too. We all have trauma in the past. Some of us maybe a lot more than others, or maybe more intense than others. And if it gets too much, please do not hesitate to actually stop meditating in that moment and go do something else. Okay? It's going to take time. It's going to take gentle steps of compassion for you to slowly budge those doors open wider and wider until you can deal with whatever's behind them in a way that's not going to react or not make you react emotionally or physically, right? And even sometimes, we know this, even just the thought of, an argument that you may have had that you've been storing in the back of your head that you don't want to think about anymore, even just the thought of that argument with that person can sometimes physiologically cause changes in our body, increases our blood pressure, increases our heart rate. Sometimes it causes sweating. Ever notice sometimes people actually get red cheeks? They redden, they get almost embarrassed or flustered when they start to think about these things. So little by little, okay? I'm not asking you to swing the door wide open and see what's inside and then become overwhelmed by it, okay? It's little by little, and that's why we call it a practice. All right, so just know that these reactions, these physical and emotional reactions may occur, and it's actually not a bad thing, okay? You're not supposed to be at peace all the time. Your body is chaos. We all live in a beautiful, organized mess, and that's okay. And hopefully with mindfulness, we can begin to open up a little bit more to these either past experiences or present experiences and become more fully aligned to our reactions toward them and not actually judge ourselves for reacting those certain ways. All right? It's normal. And you are normal. And that's okay. And I'm here to support you whatever way you need. Okay? So just know that in becoming mindful, you are doing exactly that. You're becoming more compassionate, and you're practicing becoming a little bit more gentle with yourself. All right? Have a great evening, and with that, I'll say good night.